Hey, this is Steve Cardenas, former Red Power Ranger from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and you're listening to my radio interview with Elaine Goodman at gogoodman.com.au.
I read that you started martial arts at the age of 12, which is quite late compared to the other Power Ranger actors. How did you get involved in martial arts?
Well, I actually didn't have the money to pay for martial arts. I wanted to take it. I used to watch The Karate Kid all the time, and I used to watch Kung Fu Theater every Saturday, and that was what really got me excited about martial arts. But my parents didn't have the money to pay for karate, so what I did was I went to who would be my karate instructor, and I went into his dojo, and I said, look, I don't have the money to pay for karate, but I'll do anything in order to do martial arts. So would you be willing to let me clean your floors and mop the mop the floors and sweep the carpets and clean the windows and showers and so in exchange for lessons? And I thought surely he'd say no because I'm just a 12-year-old kid. But he decided, okay, sure, I'll give you a chance, and I stuck with it ever since.
Were you into any other sports before then, growing up?
No, actually, I was horrible at other sports. I didn't do any other kind of sports. I got into gymnastics, actually, a little after I got into martial arts. I never did any other sports. Actually, I did try playing football in 8th grade, American football. And they actually, I only played like one time on the team because I went to all the practices and stuff, but I was so bad at it that they actually never played me in any games until the very end of the last game of the season.
And was your team destined for the finals?
No, our team was horrible, and that says a lot about how horrible my other athletic abilities are. I just had the talent for martial arts, and that was it.
Were any of your other friends into martial arts?
No, not really, actually. No, none of my other friends were into martial arts. Surprisingly, I was the only one. Outside of, like, the people that I took martial arts with. I mean, I made friends from there, but most of the friends that I hung out with, like in high school and all of that stuff, no, none of them were involved in martial arts. It was kind of like my own special thing. So
it was kind of just from watching it on TV that you grew to love it away from anything else that you kind of shared in common with your friends?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what has kept you so passionate about it for so many years?
Well, I tried different styles. I did Taekwondo for many, many years, but then I got involved in a style called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and now I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because I really find it a very intriguing sport. No matter what, with Taekwondo, I mean, there's only so much that you can learn, before you can't really learn anymore. You can always try to perfect what you already know, but with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's always new things to be learned. I mean, I've already been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for over 9 years now, and I still have so many things that I haven't learned yet, So there's just a wealth more of knowledge that, than there is in, say, like Taekwondo.
When you say you've got so many more things to learn about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is that stuff that's already been created, or is that you inventing new moves or merging two different things together, or is it stuff that's already created that is in a textbook or whatever?
That's a good question. It's stuff that's already created, but it's just I still have yet to discover it for myself. I can be taught it, but in order to perfect it, it takes a very long time to learn. It takes almost 8 years to get a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whereas in Taekwondo, if you train hard, you can get a black belt in 2 years.
What drew you towards Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I had my own martial arts studio that I was running, that I owned. It was called USA Martial Arts. And this kid walked in one day who was just a couple years younger than me, and he was a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he started talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and how amazing it is. And I'm like, I don't know if I buy it or not. So he basically asked me to come at him with whatever I had and essentially challenged me in my own dojo. And he put me on the ground and put me on my stomach and jumped on my back and put the chokehold on me, and it was all over in about 10 seconds. And he had 10 seconds, he had me tapping out. So that was a major eye-opener for me because I had already been training in martial arts for over 10 years at that point. So I just, it was, like I said, it was a big eye-opener for me, and I realized that there was so many more things that I needed to learn in the martial arts.
Now, how did you first find out about the Power Ranger auditions?
Well, I already knew the show because the show was already on for a year because I came on in season 2, and was hanging out in one of my friends' pizza shop, they knew I did martial arts, and again, this is one of my friends who didn't do martial arts, but I still hung out with him anyway, and then he told me about this audition that he heard about on the radio. And he was like, yo, man, I just heard about this audition for Power Rangers. You know, they're looking for new Rangers, man. He's like, they're looking for people that know how to do karate and gymnastics. You should try to totally go for it. And I said, interesting. So at first I didn't think anything of it. And then I heard from another friend the same thing. They're like, yo, man, I heard about this audition on the radio. You should check it out. So I decided to call the local TV station and ask them if they were holding auditions for Power Rangers. And they were like, yes, we're holding them at this place at this time. You just need to show up, and if you know how to do martial arts and gymnastics or hip-hop dancing, then, that's what we're looking for. And I said, wow. So I went, and when I got there was like 4,000 people at this audition. And I was like, oh, my God, this is crazy. I have no chance whatsoever, so I thought, But I just walked in there, and I was like, well, maybe I can make it to the first round. That's what I said to myself. And then after I made it to the first round, I was like, well, maybe I can make it through the second round, and so on and so forth,
So they were advertising the auditions everywhere. It wasn't just to specific people that were involved in drama at the time. It was just a big blanket call out.
Yeah, they call it a cattle call, and they were holding auditions in New York, in Florida, Texas, and California, all at the same time. So they had casting directors at each one of these cities, and it was sort of like American Idol, They had the 3 judges sitting at a table, and they just started bringing people in one at a time. Okay, tell us your name, how old are you, and show me what you can do. And so that was basically it.
Did the, I guess, judges, now that you compare it to American Idol, did the judges have personality, or were they just blank-faced?
They were pretty blank-faced, actually. As a matter of fact, they stopped me halfway through my routine. I was like, I was going through all my stuff, and I'm like, okay, stop. And I'm like, oh, wait, I'm cut already? I didn't even get to show you my best stuff yet. They're like, no. We're going to have you do what we call a callback. Take this ticket and go wait outside for a couple hours, and we'll call your number again in a little bit. And but anyway, yeah, my first audition, they didn't let me go all the way through it.
How many auditions did you have?
Auditions?
In that one day, yeah.
I had 2 auditions in that one day. And then after I did the second audition, they were like, okay, well, don't call us, we'll call you. And I was like, oh, okay. So at that point, they said, they had my number, and I just waited for them to call. And a couple days later, that's when they called and said, hey, we showed your footage to the producers, and they really liked it, so they want to have you come out to California. So we bought you a plane ticket. So come on out and check and meet us at the airport at this time, and just pack a bag for a couple of days. And I said, okay. So I packed a bag for a couple of days, and I went out and did my audition. And it was, after that was where I auditioned for Haim Saban himself, the owner of the Power Rangers.
Were you interested in acting at the time?
Not at all. I didn't really have any aspirations to be an actor or anything like that. I like I said, I went to this audition on a whim, just heard about it and said, what the heck, I'll go and give it a shot, never really knowing that I'd actually get the part.
Did they give you any kind of acting training?
No, they didn't give me any kind of acting training at all, actually. Well, no, I'm sorry, I take that back. Eventually they did, but in the beginning I didn't have any kind of acting training. They were just like, well, we just want to have, we just, need people that can read the lines, because there's so few lines anyway. So I was like, oh, okay.
Now,
and then eventually they did give me acting lessons to kind of help me round out my character a little bit.
You were involved in Power Rangers at its peak, at the peak of the franchise. Were you confident of the message you were sending to your young fans?
Well, yeah, I was confident of the message that they were sending. It was really all about the writers. The writers, I didn't really have any insight or input that I was allowed to, to put other than, just my martial arts abilities, into the fight scenes and stuff. But, everything else was all written by the writers and the producers, and I was really confident with what they were doing. I knew that they were, trying to send positive messages to the kids, so I was totally fine with that.
And what about your experience being in the spotlight, all of a sudden thrown into the spotlight and having fans and having probably parties and having all this attention. What was it like being, I guess, a Hollywood star?
Well, it was essentially, we were filming in an area that was not anywhere really near Hollywood. So we were probably about 40 miles away from the actual city. So we were kind of cut off from the world a little bit in that sense. But, whenever we did go to have to do like any kind of promotional stuff for that was the only time that we ever really had any contact with the fans. Now, obviously, it's different because I go to conventions all the time and so on and so forth. And, now I get to have lots of interaction with the fans. But before, we were very cut off from them. So the only time we'd ever meet any fans is if they brought any, children from the Make-A-Wish Foundation to the set or something like that.
I've heard you talk about the many holes in the series, like you guys always wearing the same clothes and the buildings never being destroyed and so on and so forth. Why do you think the series gained such a following back then and continues to grow today?
Well, I think it's a combination of a bunch of things. It was campy, it was hokey, but kids don't really look at things that way, they kind of like that in their shows, But I think the part that was really stimulating for them was a combination of a bunch of different things. There was, all of these, kids essentially who were like, because I think kids can relate more to older kids than they do to adults. And so to see these kids who were like, it could be them in a few years, kicking butt and have knowing martial arts and, just being like this group of like diverse kids that are really popular and, just friends with everybody and, they've got this great team and this camaraderie and not only that, but when they morphed into these superheroes, they were this really this giant force, that had like bright colors and, flashy explosions and jump crazy kicks and flips and, then you combine that with all the aliens and the monsters and the drama that came along with all of that. I think it was like sort of just a culmination of all that stuff that made it so interesting and exciting to the kids, and then you throw the rock music on top of that with the Go-Go Power Rangers with the heavy metal guitar behind it and stuff. And, it was just, just a major overstimulation for the brain for the kids, and then to throw a positive message on top of that, I think those were all the things that made it popular.
Was it entertaining for you on set when you were just going through the motions, doing all the acting, all the different episodes? Was it entertaining for you guys? Did you enjoy, I guess, filming the episodes?
There were times when we definitely felt the monotony of it, for sure. I was like, we were working 12 hours a day, 5, sometimes 6 days a week. And so you definitely feel the effects of that. And when you're done for the day, you're definitely done, So sometimes, it could get monotonous. But you just try to stay positive about what it is that you're doing and just remember who you're doing it for. And, sometimes that's hard to do when you're a young kid, when you're in your early 20s and stuff. It's hard to kind of look at the bigger picture of things in life. But, I feel like if you try, then you can kind of push through it. And then you realize, well, do the job. It's a job, of course, but it's a pretty unique job. So you got to kind of count your blessings in that regard.
Now, if we go a bit more specific, in the transition from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers to Zeo, who made the decision to make you the Blue Ranger and Johnny Youngbosch the Green Ranger? Was it a matter of rock, paper, scissors?
Well, I think at that point it didn't really matter, you know what I mean? Because all they knew that was that the Red Ranger was the leader, so they had to make Tommy the leader. And then at that point, it didn't really matter. I don't know. You probably know a little bit better than me. I watched the show, but I didn't follow we did so many scripts, so fast that the storyline sometimes was lost on me. But I don't know if they felt like, Rocky was like second in command kind of thing or not. But I really feel like there was just one leader and everybody else was equal under him, So it wouldn't have really mattered whether I was the blue one or the green one. But I don't know. I guess it just felt, that's just the way it felt.
And in Zeo, even you must admit, you got a much better script than you did in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Did that feel a bit better to have to have more lines and have a bit more attention?
It did. It did. I think that also kind of came about because they had given me the acting lessons and had really given me a chance to kind of open my my range up a little bit. So I was very happy and grateful for that.
And looking back, did you prefer playing the red Mighty Morphin Power Ranger or the blue Zeo Ranger? Because I've seen you at conventions, you dress up in both suits. Which one do you prefer to be known for?
Well, you know what? Honestly, I love the red suit. The red suit is so iconic. There's just no comparing it. If anybody ever sees that red suit, in any fashion, they just know, oh, that's a Power Ranger. So the other ones aren't so recognizable, including Zeo. So for that respect, I love the red suit. But I also love the blue suit too, because the blue suit is very cool looking still, and it's very interesting. But again, it also is a reflection of the character development that I got to have, being that I'd been on the show for so long and done so many episodes. I kind of liked my character more in that one. So at that point in time, the suit didn't really matter. But if you had to ask me if I had to pick a favorite forever, I'd probably have the red one. But the blue Zeo one is cool. The one thing about the blue Zeo one is that nobody else was ever the blue Zeo. So, like with Austin, with the red one, it was Austin and then it was me, but nobody else ever wore the blue Zeo. And then some other people some people wore, other pink costumes, and some people wore other yellow and green ones too, but nobody else was ever the blue Zeo. So that's kind of cool.
And if you're a, not hardcore, but kind of like a Power Ranger fan, you know that Austin St. John hasn't really been in the spotlight for quite a while. Have you kind of taken ownership of wearing that red suit? Is it a little bit weird for you that you weren't the original, or are you confident that, I guess, that you own that suit now that Austin's kind of been out of the spotlight for quite a while?
Right. Well, either way, even if Austin was in the spotlight, there's no denying that, I was in that red suit even longer than he was. So, I feel like I definitely put my time in to be able to earn the right to wear that suit and claim it. If Austin ever wanted to come and do shows and be in the suit, I would never have a problem with that ever. And, why should I? But, no, I would never feel like I was, stepping on anything. Not at this point. What
was your impression of Power Rangers creator Haim Saban?
Well,
I heard you giggle there.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say that, I'm forever grateful to Haim for a couple of things. Obviously one, giving me the shot on the show and allowing me that opportunity to be part of everyone's life in that regard. So for that, that's a respect that I will always have for him. And then the other thing that I'm very grateful for him about is taking the show back from Disney and really revamping it and making it exciting again for people and bringing it back, because that has since given me the ability to be able to kind of do conventions and interact with the fans again and feel like, I kind of can relive a little bit of some of that stuff that, as almost 20 years goes by now, I kind of look back and do kind of miss. So it's good to be a part of that again. So I'm thankful to Haim for that. Haim was very honest with me from the very beginning that, we were, not going to get paid a lot of money for doing the show. And, if I wanted to be a part of that, I had to understand that. And, so he never gave me any, never disillusioned me or anything like that. So I knew what I was getting into. But yeah, either way though, I'm very grateful for him giving me the opportunity. So, I have nothing but respect for the man.
Was it hard doing the show for so long, even though you weren't getting paid all that much?
Well, eventually that's ultimately why I left, you know what I mean? I felt like, I had been doing the show for a long time now. I had put in over 100 and, 140 episodes at that point. And, all I wanted to do was try to, and I knew that we had one last season coming up, and I wanted, to try to get a fair amount, at least what other union actors were getting, even if it was just for the last season. And when he ultimately didn't want to do that, that's when I said, okay, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and go then. In hindsight, should I have just finished out the season? Yes. It wouldn't have hurt me to do it. But I had a successful school that was running at that time, so I felt like, what, if I stepped away, I wouldn't be, hurting myself. And I didn't, but, it still would have been fun to finish the show. And I probably should have just stuck it out, but I think it was just, my principles when you're 23 years old. You have to feel like you got to stand your ground, but what are you going to do,
It's a big decision to make as a 23-year-old to go and have that much confidence in your own business and step away from, I guess, regular pay, even though it wasn't all that much.
Right, yeah. Well, the school was already running well. I'd already been running it for a couple of years at this point, along with doing the show. I'd film the show and teach after the show was over. I'd go and teach classes all night. So, I was working double duty for sure for a long time, and I worked very hard to build that school up. So the school was already, successful at that point. So I didn't really have a problem with stepping away. It wasn't a financial issue. It was just, for me, it was more like I felt like my work was not appreciated, and that's really what it came down to. But, if I was given the opportunity again, I would definitely just finish out the season and then end it for myself and for everybody else just on a positive note.
Why do you think the auditions are so popular? Like, so many young, I guess, or middle-aged teenagers, older teenagers go to the auditions to become Power Rangers in each new series, and they'd all know that it's a non-union show by now. So why do you think these roles are so popular? Is it because you get to be part of such a big franchise?
Well, I think it has to do with that, and I think sometimes it's just as simple as, you're an actor and you want to work, and, this can give you some exposure that that probably a lot of other shows or a lot of indie films or whatever might not give you, or independent projects. So even though, you may not be part of a union show, it's still part of a very popular show. So that kind of can give you exposure that you might not get anywhere else.
Now, Power Morphicon is a specific Power Rangers convention held in LA at every major anniversary of the show. So 15 years since the movie, 15 years since the original series, and so on. Why do you think Power Rangers can demand its own convention as opposed to many other cult TV shows?
Well, I believe it can because there's just been so many, you know what I mean? Let's think about it. It's the longest-running kids' TV show that there is. that I can think of anyway. Outside
The Simpsons, probably, yeah, and it doesn't get nearly as much credit as The Simpsons does.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But I think that the fact that there's so many different seasons, and there's so many now different generations that still watch the show, and all of the ones who were little kids when they watched it, a great majority of them still love the show, you know what I mean? And I think that's what warrants a kind of convention like that, where somebody that still loves and watches the show 20 years later with a lot of nostalgia and stuff has the opportunities to meet, 100 different Rangers from all the 20 different seasons that have ever been out there. That is major, and I think that's what, kind of creates a buzz for a convention like that.
Do you think that will ever spread out to the rest of the world, or do you think it'll stay in America where it's most popular?
Well, I think it will. I think places like Australia and the UK, where I just came back from actually, they really want to have those Power Ranger conventions as well too. And I think eventually it will happen. But in order to make that happen on a scale that would draw enough of a crowd, I think they really need to. The people who put on the convention really need to definitely invest some good money up front to get some people, to get the right kind of Rangers out there. They definitely need to get a lot of people from the original series and from the early seasons, and then of course the new seasons as well. The other ones, there's so many filler ones in between that sometimes people don't remember which one was what, and so on and so forth. Only the really diehard fans do. But if it's really very recent and very old, I think those are the ones that are going to be if they can get those people to that convention, then it'll be a good show.
Have you ever been asked to make a return to the show for a couple of episodes?
Yeah, well, I was asked to do the Forever Red, and then something happened where there was a miscommunication, and they weren't able to get in touch with me, and they had to film, and I didn't know how to get a hold of me, so I kind of lost out on that opportunity. But I feel like if they came to me again, I think I would definitely take it. You know, even if it was for this time around, I think even if it was for nothing, I would take it, just to give back to the fans. You know.
Now, most of the original Power Ranger actors attend a variety of conventions per year, as you mentioned, but mainly in the US and some overseas, and you guys would obviously enjoy it. But is it your decision ultimately which conventions you want to go to, or are you under contract by Saban to attend specific ones?
No, I'm not under contract by Saban for anything anymore. I can choose any conventions that I want to go to. In fact, I'm going to Australia next month. So I'm doing the Supernova, and it's next month in November, November 9th and 10th in Brisbane, and then 16th and 17th in Adelaide.
There's no set conventions that you have to go to. I mean, you don't have contact with Saban anymore.
That I have to go to.
This is all off your own bat.
No, I don't have any contact with Saban anymore. I don't have. Yeah. I can do whatever I want with the show. It has to be understood that I have to say former, like I have to say former Red Ranger, but even that really doesn't matter that much, I mean, I think they obviously know I'm the former and not the current.
So what draws you to do so many conventions? I mean, in the last year or so, you've picked up your convention schedule and you're starting to do a lot more. What kind of drives you to do conventions? Is it just a matter of meeting your fans, or is there something else to it?
Well, I was doing the conventions for a while, back in like 2007, 2008, 2009, but I kind of stepped away from it for a little bit because I opened up another jiu-jitsu studio, and I needed to take a couple of years to really make that grow and mold that school a little bit. But it was Jason Frank that actually called me and was like, dude, you need to come back to the convention scene. It's the 20-year reunion. You should come out and start doing some more shows. You should come in costume and really embrace the fans and meet them. And I'm like, you know what? It's probably time that I should do that again. So it was really kind of the influence of Jason Frank really that got me back into it again.
Is it weird seeing fans at conventions that range from 5 years old to 30 years old or older?
Is it weird, you said?
Yeah, is it weird seeing such a wide range of fans from 5 years old to over 30 years old?
No, I don't think it's weird at all. Actually, I think it's quite amazing. I find it. What's the word I'm looking for? I find it very touching, actually, that people still, kind of hold on to that, because I can understand about nostalgia and longing for your childhood and things like that, and here's a chance for them to actually do it, so it's pretty cool. I mean, when I got the chance to meet the Karate Kid for real and tell him, hey, you were the inspiration for me to get into martial arts, that was a very big moment for me, So I can definitely understand that. No, I don't find it weird at all. I think it's very endearing. I think it's very, I think it's very powerful, actually.
Is it kind of exhilarating that you still have such an effect on such a wide range of people?
Of course. I mean, how would you like it if you sat at a table and people walked up to you one at a time and tell you how great you were?
Fair enough when you put it like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because that's how those things are. So yeah, of course it's good. It's fun. I mean, it's nice and everything like that. But it's symbiotic because I'm basically like. At the same time, they come and tell me how great I am, but, I'm also grateful to them as well, too, for even keeping it alive and just even still showing any interest,
Now, you quit acting after your stint on Power Rangers. Have you ever considered getting back into acting at any point or any time in the future?
No, I never really considered it because, it is very hard work. I mean, you can't really... How can I say it the best way? You can't really serve two masters, I mean, you can't, I can't take the time that it takes to go to acting classes every week and hit auditions all the time and then still run a successful school. I just don't have, So that being said, if somebody came along with a project and wanted me to be involved in it, well, then certainly I would do it, but if it meant that I had to go out and hunt for it and search for it, go from door to door auditioning all the time, that's something that I don't want to do, I know that there's far more talented people out there than me, so this is just being realistic about things, because I haven't put in that time, I did the acting lessons, 20 years ago, and I did all the episodes, and as far as like what it takes to film a TV show, I know what it takes, but as far as like doing the work you got to do to get the job, that that I don't have a huge amount of interest in.
As you mentioned, in 2011, you opened up your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school called Force Balance Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Can you estimate how many of your students know you from Power Rangers and how many know you from the martial arts circles?
Well, I think all of them know me from the Power Rangers because it's kind of on my website. It kind of talks about the history of like in the About page. It talks about my history, and how I got involved in the martial arts and then the whole Power Ranger thing. It's all kind of in there. So I think everybody at my school knows, But in the beginning they might be intrigued by that, but ultimately, it's me, the instructor and the training and the instruction that they're getting that really keeps them, involved in staying with me. It might be what I might initially have gotten them in the door, but what keeps them there is that they meet the real you and not this idea they have in their head.
And what about the name Force Balance? Is that related to Jiu-Jitsu, or is that just a cool name that you made up?
Well, it does have a little bit to do with Jiu-Jitsu because we also do yoga there at our studio, so it's kind of like you need to have strength, but you also need to have balance. So that's why we said, you need to have calm and you need to have strength. So that's why we put force and balance on there. And that's really kind of the philosophy behind, our, and Jiu-Jitsu is also known as the gentle art. That's what it, literally translated means. Jiu-Jitsu doesn't involve a lot of like kicks and strikes and elbows and things like that. It's more about like ground control and how you can use leverage to overcome somebody rather than strength or speed. And so you need to be able to kind of know that's how to be strategic and you need to have that balance. So sort of like a warrior poet, so to speak.
What do you like about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu compared to all other kinds of martial arts? I mean, you mentioned before that it's a lot deeper than most martial arts. Is there anything else that makes it stand out from the hundreds of different martial arts that are out there?
Well, it's a lot of fun, you know what I mean? Because I liken it to chess, it's human chess. You have to use your mind and your body at the same time, all the time, and in all the other martial arts you have to do that as well too, but this is one of the ones where you can really outsmart somebody who's much bigger than you, even if somebody outweighs you by 100 pounds, which is, I don't know how many kilos that is, but, you can definitely, intelligently defend yourself, which is very good for the street as well. It's not just good for the sport, but if you ever had to defend yourself for real against somebody that's much bigger than you, Jiu-Jitsu will definitely give you a much greater advantage than if you're trying to kick somebody in the face who's too tall to reach their face in the first place, Yeah. So, not everybody can do Taekwondo. Not everybody can do boxing. Not everybody can do some of these other things that require a massive amount of like physical talent. Whereas Jiu-Jitsu, it's all about leverage, and it's all about just understanding what your body can do and learning to work around that. And that's why Jiu-Jitsu is for everybody, and Taekwondo is not.
Have you ever had to use your abilities in everyday life?
There has been times. There was a time when, a crazy person came into when I was teaching one of my kids' classes, and this is, mind you, when there was 4 and 5-year-old kids in there and their parents. And this guy came in and started getting crazy and trying to fight me just out of the blue for no reason. But it was just because he wasn't mentally stable. And I've had to use my jiu-jitsu to take him down.
Did you get an applause?
Did I get an applause? Well, I mean, I think everybody was just freaked out. But when the paramedics came to wheel him out on a stretcher, and the cops came to arrest him, they were all laughing at him. Or why did you come into a jiu-jitsu studio and start static with the instructor? What's wrong with you? So the paramedics and the cops were laughing as they were wheeling him away.
Did you learn anything from doing martial arts on screen that you have incorporated into your personal curriculum or what you teach your students?
Pretty much now I focus more on jiu-jitsu, so I don't really focus more on the stand-up style of martial arts. So no, the stuff that I learned on TV I don't really pass on to my students because I just, it's not really part of the curriculum that I teach now.
And in the last year or so, you have made a Facebook page, a Twitter account, and your followers and fan numbers have been increasing steadily, and you're getting more and more communication with your fans. What or who persuaded you to enter into social media?
Well, I mean, I think when I started my school and was trying to get my jiu-jitsu academy off the ground, I was told I really need to focus on social media. So that was what got me started with it. And then I just kept noticing that, a bunch of fans were requesting to be my friend on my personal page. So I just finally started accepting them all, and that's how it kind of got started. And I would be like, hey, and by the way, follow my page if you want, my fan page. And hey, follow my sports balance page. And hey, follow me on Twitter. And, that's kind of what, got that ball rolling. But fans found out what page was my real personal page. And they were like, I was getting hundreds of requests per day and stuff. So I would just finally accept everybody. And I finally accepted everybody. And then I was like, well, look, I've got all these people here. Why don't I tell them about my other pages? And that's kind of how it got going. And I said, well, now I can use that to let people know where I'm going to be and when I'm going to be in their town and get them excited and create that buzz.
Are you surprised that you still have such a big following from your Power Ranger days?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, it's very humbling, to just know that there's a lot of people out there that still admire you and for something that you that you were part of, so long ago. It's very rewarding, very humbling at the same time.
What is the scariest, weirdest, or funniest thing a fan has said or given to you when you've been at a convention? Have you heard anything that stood out?
There's been different things. Like one time, a guy asked me to sign his face. And then he was telling me he was going to get it tattooed, and that freaked me out a little bit, and I kind of encouraged him not to do that. And then, there was other people who, just come by and just been shaking and, just, it's like, hey mate, I'm just Steve, I'm not Paul McCartney, So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it,
And finally, what are some highlights and lowlights from your time on the show? What are some of the memories you have 20 years on?
Well, so still one of my fondest memories was doing the film in Sydney, Australia. I love the Australian people. Seriously, I'm not just saying that because I'm on with you, but anybody ever asked me what's one of my most memorable things, and that was, hanging out in Australia and being in that country for so many months. And working on that movie, that was something that was very epic in my life, and I still have fond memories of it. And some of the lowlights were just the long hours that we had to work. It was definitely grueling sometimes.
Have you been back to Australia since, or is this going to be your first time back here?
No, this will be my first time back. Time back. So if anybody can make it up from Melbourne up to Brisbane or Adelaide, come on out to the show. I'll be out there at Supernova, so definitely check it out.
And finally, feel free to give your Facebook page a plug or your Twitter page a plug. How can people or fans get in contact with you?
Sure, yeah, no problem. Yeah, if you guys want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Steve Cardenas PR, which stands for Power Ranger. And then you can also follow me on Facebook on my fan page. It's facebook.com/Steve Cardenas123.
Cool. Steve, it's been a pleasure. It's great to have a walk down memory lane with someone that was so influential in the franchise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elaine. Appreciate it, man.